All right, guys, welcome back. This week we're going to be doing an informative video on fixing an issue that a lot of, or some griddle owners have with low heat. Another issue that a lot of griddle owners run into where they leave their griddle outside without a cover, it rusts, or if they just put it away at the end of the season, which some people do. We like to cook in our garage, of course with the door open, but cook in our garage throughout the winter. But if you put it away, you come back in the spring and you realize that your griddle appears to be a total loss because of rust. We're going to show you how to sand that down, put a new coating on it, and see what the outcome is with that. But one of the other issues that we had was low heat, so we're going to troubleshoot that in this video. It is a long video, so to try and keep you guys involved, intrigued, and happy, and laughing, of course, is what we always aim to do. We're going to put little clips of Chris doing an amazing feat at a recent gathering we were at. Needless to say, this was at the end of the gathering when Chris was having a good time the entire time, just like all of us were. But up here, you'll see the full version of the clip. I'm just going to stay quiet for a few, and that way we can watch that and listen to the audio the first time.
Over. Come on. One and done.
We all missed it. Come on.
Maya, did you see it?
No, Maya didn't see it. Come on. Chris. Chris. All right, this is what 250 pounds looks like, and he did it! Oh!
247 this morning.
247. So as you can see, Chris did do a cartwheel to our surprise. So we're going to pepper that cartwheel into our video throughout the segment. And first person to count the amount of times that you saw Chris, including this time, this counts as number one. Count the amount of times you saw Chris doing a cartwheel in our video, and email us at thegriddleguys@yahoo.com. First person that gets back to us with the right count will receive a $10 Dunkin's gift card that we'll mail out to you gladly. Again, long video, but I think it's going to be helpful. So issues that we take care of: low heat, rust. And then a bonus is that I weld on a small gas fitting or small nipple to the grease trap. If you have one of the older Blackstones, grease running back and dripping down the leg is an issue. This is a way to solve that. It diverts the grease and puts it right into the trap. So without much ado, we'll get to the video. I will be doing a voiceover because I may have mentioned or not mentioned earlier that I was recording in my garage with Pandora cranked in the background. So I ended up having to delete all the audio. So that way I don't get hit with copyright issues. So I'll be doing a voiceover. We'll be showing you Chris, and hopefully we'll be giving you some helpful information. Like, subscribe, definitely comment, let us know what you think. And if you have any other questions, hit us up. Welcome to my first attempt at narration. Here we go. So as you can see, the actual heat temperatures were in the mid to low fours. For temperature, you really should be in the mid to high 500 degrees, 570 to 580, in that range for heat. So first step was taking out the burner tubes. It's just one screw in the back that holds them in place. Take your time with that because they may be rusty. You don't want to strip that. After that, we have two screws on each side of the faceplate that you remove. Pop off the knobs, and then there's an actual pin that goes through the supports, one of the legs on the other side. There's just a cotter pin that you slide out, pop that out, and that way you can get this off, just as you see here. Make sure you take your time with unplugging that igniter cord on the back side. You don't want to just yank on that, but it does unplug pretty easily, so definitely do that. All right, so I got this off. This is just your front. It's got the valve assembly on here. I'm just going to put these all on high, so that way they're open. That's just one click. And then what we're going to do is just take off the regulator so we don't damage that. As I mentioned, we already tried a different regulator and it didn't make a difference, so we're just going to put that over there. These are the orifices. This is what controls the amount of gas that goes out in combination with the valve itself, which is right behind here. I bought a conversion kit to go from propane to natural gas. So Blackstone was nice enough to give me this nice little orifice tool. Just goes on there. And these unscrew, preferably not to drop them. And they're brass, so you have to be very careful not to cross thread them when you're putting them back in. So at this point, we have the orifices out, which, as we mentioned, little brass fittings there that meter the amount of propane. And we took off the regulator, which is right there. All the valves are open. So I'm just going to put a little bit of air into this to see. As you can see, there's some stuff that came out. So we're going to try and purge that. Get that through. Actually going to close each one so that way it forces the air all the way down to the next one. As I'm going down, I'm just closing the valve. So that way it forces the air to this one and hopefully any contaminants that are in there. Down to the last one. So even a little bit of the thread sealant that they put on there at the factory, if they put a little too much, that could get in there. That could cause a little bit of blockage. You can't really zoom in on this because it's too small. It doesn't really focus well, but the hole is so small that any tiny piece of particulate or anything that could block it or slow down the actual propane flow could definitely affect your heat. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Next thing we're going to do is sand the tubes, blow those out. We'll put it all back together. So this is our thread sealer, Teflon enriched. Any type of gas fittings you generally want to use a thread sealant, just because the fit isn't always perfect. So this takes care of any type of imperfections. We're going to go light with this because it's a pretty low pressure system, but we're going to go light with it so that way we make sure that we don't clog up these little orifices, which is what I feel may have been part of the problem in the first place. Just a tiny. So we got those in. We're just going to snug them up. They don't need to be super tight, but just snug. So these are the burner tubes. As you can see, they're pretty good shape. They're actually in really good shape. So what I'm going to do is just sand them. This is, I believe, 120 grit sandpaper. Yeah, 120. Just going to clear these out. Anything that's loose or rough. You don't really have to scrub hard, but you just want to kind of clean it up a little bit. This is where you adjust the air. So you open that and you close that. And the more air you get, changes the flame height, changes the combustion as far as the efficiency. We'll work on that to get the flame looking just right, because the more efficient the flame is, the more efficient your burn is, the more heat you get. So, just going to give those a light sanding. Blow them out. Alright, so this is going to go back together the exact opposite way you took it apart. So we got all the orifices back in, we attach the regulator. Don't forget, you have your igniter wire that you got to plug in. Make sure that's there, and then this just clips on. So all the burner tubes are back in. I left all the sleeves closed so there's no extra air getting into them. I expect it to be like a yellowish flame that's kind of erratic. And then what we'll do is we'll open up and introduce more air into it by turning that little sleeve. You won't be able to see it. I'll try and get a close-up with another camera so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But I'm just going to twist them to let in a little more air. So I'm going to light them all up so you can see what it looks like. And this is with the doors all the way shut for extra air. Alright, so as you can see, yellow flame. We'll get that over to this one. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to adjust it. If you put too much air into it, the flame will drop too low, so you won't get as much heat. But you just want it so that the yellow starts to disappear. You get a flame that's roughly 1.5 inches, but you also want it to be consistent going all the way across. So that looks pretty good. Open it up just a little bit more. No, not that much. That's all the way open. That's still good. I think that looks pretty good. So there's a set screw now that we got this adjusted. We'll tighten that up. Might want just a little bit more air on this one. Right there. So I tighten the set screws up, we'll put the griddle top on, and we'll do a test. We'll see if we get heat. We're looking to gain roughly 20 to 30 degrees on what we had before. Before we started working on this, our temperatures ran between 469 and 512. After all the work we did with cleaning everything out, sanding down the tubes and putting it back together, adjusting the flames properly, we were running between 550 and 576. There was some hot spots just over that, but I definitely call it a success. I'm back. Just kind of putting this aside for a while since we fixed the temperature problem. So now we got it up to temperature. I've been out working in my yard all day, so I figured while I'm dirty, might as well get to this. All we're going to do is sand this down and then re-season it, because obviously there's a lot of rust on it. If you don't have any of these tools, you can use this. Not a lot of fun, but it will work. Anytime you're sanding anything, I always recommend wearing a respirator, and that way, stay safe. So this is a belt sander. I'm going to use this to take the rough stuff off. I'm going to use this to get into the edges, and then this is for the corners, Multi-Max. So all this is a flap disc, sanding paper, obviously belt sander, and we'll get to it, and we'll sand this up, we'll re-season it. Flap this underneath. Alright, so you can see how that's going. It's long. It'll take a while, but it's definitely coming off. It doesn't have to be perfectly shiny. We're just getting the rust off, and we're trying to get the rust off. So I'll keep at this. I'll come back once this is all done. We'll wipe it down, and you'll see hopefully how good it looks. Alright, so at this point, we got to sand it down. Always takes a little more elbow grease than you expect, but it worked eventually. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to clean all the residue off with soapy water. And you want to use nice soapy water so you can get the oils, the residues, everything off. I just swapped my soapy water out for fresh water, nice and clean, no soap. Now if there's any residue with the soap, we want to get that off too. As you can see, even on low, it's getting hot. So this will be perfect to give it its first seasoning. I'm going to bake it in at least 3 times. So once I get this wiped down, which I'm pretty much done, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat all the way up to high, get it cranking, and for this time I'm going to use Crisco. I've been using oil for a long time, just regular oil, and it seems to work well. But online there's a lot of good reviews of Crisco.
One and done.
As long as you bake it in and you don't leave any residue with it. Otherwise it tends to spoil, I guess. But we'll crank these up to high. Now this is nice and clean. No more residue coming off. Pretty good. Pretty good. So I got this pretty much up to temperature. Crisco, just going to throw some of that down. We're just going to coat this whole thing with it. And I'm going to bake it in. You should start to see this turn black. We're going to get the sides as well, just because we exposed the metal there too, so we want to kind of season everything. Alright, so I'm about 15 minutes into the seasoning. A couple things that I learned with using Crisco. One of them is that don't let it pool up, otherwise you can see it actually cakes. So when I scraped it off, now I'm essentially re-seasoning, but not a big deal. It's actually really looking good. I know this doesn't look great to the average person, but to a griddle owner, it's really nice and smooth, and it's turning a nice color. So I think I'm going to just keep coating it with Crisco. Once it burns off, coat it again, and I keep coating it and then wiping it down so that way it's not too thick. And looks good, should be good. One thing that I've kind of learned, if you can see the smoke going out, probably not the best idea to do it in your garage because the Crisco does have a low smoking temperature. Got my trusty fan set up over there, just don't know it in the garage at this point. But I don't know, in short, looks great. We'll see how it comes out in the end. Alright, so I am about an hour into this. I've coated it maybe 6 or 7 times. But as you can see, it's well worth it. Absolutely well worth it. It looks phenomenal. Just going to do the final coating. Just a thin one. That's what I've been doing, just thin coatings, moving it around. That way it's nice and consistent. You do not want it to pool. I've said that about 17 times now. I still mean it. I can attest that this griddle is definitely getting up to temperature. It's hard to even just do it this close. My knuckles are feeling the heat. But absolutely gorgeous. It looks perfect. It looks better than when you get it new. Because even new, you have to season it. And I have to say, besides the smoke, Crisco definitely seems to be a nice product for seasoning. This is amazingly consistent. And great. I'm going to let this cool off for a bit and then go on to my final project. Alright, so here we go. This is on to the last part of this project of rehabbing this griddle. What I'm doing here is I'm just grinding a V into the bottom of a 3/4 inch gas nipple. Typical stuff you can buy at the hardware store. This is just something I had hanging on around the garage. The reason why I'm grinding the V into it is because that's the shape of the bottom of your grease trough. And that's what I'm going to be welding this onto, right below the hole where your grease normally drips through to. At this point, you can see how nicely the gas nipple that we ground a V into the bottom of sits on that trough. Makes it easy to weld, so you just go around, weld it all, grind it down a little bit just to make it look a little cleaner, and then throw a coat of primer on it just so it doesn't rust as quickly as everything else. As you can see, there's rust on the bottom of the griddle. We left that because it's not flaking. It's definitely not a concern. It doesn't affect the heat, or it doesn't seem to. We did try and grind that one time, and again, it didn't make a difference, so that's why it's not a concern. So at this point, pretty much all set with the project. But as you'll see in the next clip, we're just going to drill the hole out a little bit bigger, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so I got the temperature issue taken care of. So we got heat, got the rust situation taken care of. We got a beautiful coat of, multiple coats of Crisco for a nice seasoning. I just welded on this little 3/4 inch gas nipple. So that way when the grease goes over to here, it won't drip back, which is a big concern with these, the older models. The newer ones have the grease trap in the back, so you don't have to worry about it. But now that I have this welded on, I'm just going to open up this hole a little bit more, so that way So now this griddle is officially ready to go back to its owner. Like new. Actually better than new. Because now we won't have to worry about the grease rolling back. It's got a better seasoning than most griddles out there. And it's good to go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. And I look forward to the next video. Thanks. The griddle guy.
How was that?
Hey.
How was that?
Just
Did I do it?
No, I didn't see it. One more time.
Yeah, I did it.
Come on. Come on.
Now,
one more
show's
time.
over.